talking about your events and how they have changed and where are you now. So today we are, well, over there, skip one. There's Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
And in the middle
Good
today,
to
we've
see you
got
guys.
in the middle today, we've got Richard Grier with grewV Spice, and he's one of our clients that has gone through a tremendous event plan change with his company. We've had a lot of interesting what ifs and now what's conversations, and I think that it's a great time to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for the invite. It's awesome to be here. And hey,
got your drink?
Oh,
there it is.
happy hour.
Cheers.
I've had way too much already.
Yeah, that's a good sign. So, Richard, tell us a little bit about grewV Spice, just a little bit of a background so that our audience can get to know you a little better.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, grewV Spice started out as a childhood dream, albeit at the time when I was a child, I had no idea that this was a dream that was going to come true in my lifetime. But nonetheless, I had the privilege of growing up in a home where conversation happened in the kitchen and around the kitchen table. So through that, and then through my total lifetime, I've always been the one that's been in the kitchen, cooking, preparing meals, helping my mom, helping others, and I just truly enjoyed it. But it really didn't turn into a career until roughly 14, 15 months ago, when a good friend of mine, and at the time I was actually living in California, he invited me up to come and cook for an executive dinner that he was hosting. And so I flew up from California and cooked for these 18 amazing people. And several of them said, "Where can we buy this stuff? This tastes absolutely incredible." And so I said, "Well, I'm just exploring the idea that whether I should go commercial with this." And one of the people that was in the room at the time, a serious foodie in the city of Calgary, she said, "You got to do this. This is truly some of the best I've had." And so under that encouragement, I then undertook to develop a company and incorporated it and moved product into the marketplace, and am now currently on select shelves of Safeway Sobeys throughout the city of Calgary and also in Lloydminster.
That's so awesome. And so how many spices do you have now? You're at 5 and there's one coming.
So yeah, you guys kind of give the tickle of yesterday and made mention of. So yes, there is going to be a new seasoning coming out. It's going to be called, well, it is called Alberta Prime Beef Rub. And the early out of the gate commentary around it, again, it is commentary that is very supportive. Comments such as, "We love it. We haven't had anything this good in a long time. Where can we buy it?" And so that kind of gives me the kind of the easy segue for you, in that we were, as Candy Consulting in conjunction with grewV Spice, we were going to do a full Stampede launch of this new Alberta Prime Beef rub. And so now we're in this new reality. Sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that event was supposed to look like and what we were originally planning, and now what?
Yeah. So the original event, and parts of the event that were going into the original are still going to be part of the virtual, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. But in the real event, what we were looking at was securing a public site. We were investigating the opportunity of doing it at the new Inglewood YW, and in there we were going to have the concept was that we were going to set up a whole pile of barbecues. We were going to have celebrity chefs from different industries and different people, notwithstanding myself cooking.
Oh, there you go. We just lost you for a second, Richard. So do you want to just start that again about the event?
Okay.
What you were thinking? Yeah.
So circle back, and if part of this is a repeat, my apologies on technology. We're all challenged by it. So yeah, no, what I was saying is we were looking at doing a live event for around the Stampede season to launch the new Alberta Prime Beef Rub. And so we're talking about doing this at the new YWCA in Inglewood, and securing not only the whole building in terms of the public use areas, but also all the parking areas. and setting it up in such a way that we were going to bring in barbecues. We were going to have celebrity chefs coming in to cook. I was going to cook, and then we were going to have a grewV tuck shop where people could buy the spices along with other sponsored vendors who wished to promote their products at the event. And then we were going to have some live entertainment. It was just going to be just a really great. The concept is a street party, just where everybody got together, had some fun, had some great food, and got to experience the grewV way of cooking.
And I think that's really key, Richard, is from, I think, the first strat session when we first talked to you, just when was that? Before Christmas, I guess, already.
Yeah, golly.
The time flies. I think the idea of the grewV way of cooking and how you show up, and I say this all the time, is that it's more than just the food you're cooking. It's your spirit, it's your energy, it's your love for the spices. That really is, when we talk about being infused in everything you do. And so when we were talking about that first event, or the first event concept, that was, I think, what was so exciting about it. It was, you've really got this, everything about it was going to be screaming and be just oozing what it means to actually cook in the grewV way. And can you explain that grewV way a bit for us? Because I know there's a bunch of grewV pieces to it. Why grewV, maybe? And then what is cooking the grewV way?
Well, you kind of touched on a couple of points, and I'm not sure if this is what you're looking for, but the name grewV, actually, you can tell by my age, there's some history with that word. But it's a fun word. It's an exciting word, and that's what I want the company to be, a fun, exciting company. And all the parties that get to participate in it are fun and exciting people, notwithstanding the two amazing people, one to my left and one to my right. So in the expansion of that, sure, humility. In the expansion of that, the grewV way of cooking is. And I have full respect, in the culinary world, there are different levels of certification and academic credentials that go with professional cooking. And the grewV way of cooking, what makes grewV the way of cooking different, is that we make cooking fun. And it's for all ages. So to me, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to be critical if you burn something, or it spills over on the counter, or the plate doesn't present just right, or there's a piece that you missed wiping, for presentation. There is an absolute appreciation for those aspects of the culinary world in the technical sense for those who engage in that and take pride in that. And to them, I take my hat off to them and I honor them. And I couldn't even hold a candle to their craft in that light. But here's my challenge, my head-on challenge to anyone that is in that industry that may be choosing to listen to this. I'll go head-to-head with you any day and twice on Sunday, and I'll win. Because the flavor that grewV Spice produces is what people enjoy the most. It's, yes, you can do presentation. Yeah, you can make it look like an artwork. But in reality, if it doesn't sit well in your mouth, as good as it looks, it's coming back out. So pardon the graphic nature of that statement, but
for all moms out there,
the reality is the grewV way of cooking is just a simple, fun family event. And part of the event that you aforementioned in terms of the one we're working on is grewV Spice has actually purchased a full race chuck wagon, and it's going to be logoed with sponsor logos, and it's going to be promoted when we can go live at community fairs and events and so forth. And we also have Rookie of the Year as access to us as a driver, chuck wagon driver. And we want to engage community and community events just to not show off grewV Spice, but to get community back together. And sadly, the circumstances we're finding ourselves in today with COVID-19 is we're creating community through virtual technologies. And that's why we're moving this platform from a live event to a virtual event.
So how are you going to outcook everyone then, Richard, with your big tough guy words? You're sending out fighting words over there.
Oh, of course. That's what's called a friendly arm wrestle. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who wins. It matters how the crowd appreciates what you build for them. And you know,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's all for me good camaraderie. It's the coolest thing. I have friends that are Red Seals. I have friends that are Michelin chefs, and when we get together, it's like a hoedown, low down, have fun, have a beverage wherever that goes, and you know what? You just make a day of it, and then all those guests who get to come and enjoy that, it's like a garage band. You just have a good time.
So tell us, and honestly, that is one of the, I think, the coolest things about the grewV Spice brand and what you've created is the idea that, like you cooked in the kitchen when you were a kid, this is open to anybody. And the idea of the spices being that foundation for a great meal, and the smells and everything that you can think of when you have that memory of cooking with your family in your kitchen. I think that freedom to cook and explore and test and try things out, I think is pretty amazing for families, especially now when a lot of families are now isolated together, but they're in their home, they're cooking a lot of meals themselves, they're baking and making meals that maybe they haven't had before. That's something that for us, we're usually all over the place. We've got 4 adults in our house and always running somewhere. And the idea of everybody being home, like I think we've had probably 6 meals together in the last 2 weeks. And for some people that sounds like a lot, but that doesn't happen too often in our house anymore. And the idea of what you're bringing to people is not just cooking and eating together, but that you're cooking a great meal and in a way that you can feel good about it. Jen, you're more of a foodie than I am, but Richard, can you share with us some of the uniqueness of the spice that you create? Like, what is it about the spice that you tell people when you're out at the stores and doing tastings, and what is it about the spice?
Well, as you were talking about that, and I posted on my Instagram account yesterday a post related to just eat healthy. Mm-hmm. And that's a component of the grewV Spice. I mean, this is the spices and herbs that I use are all hand selected by myself in terms of not within a batch world, but certainly in the outset and the creation of the recipe. These are all hand selected, very carefully crafted or picked spices and herbs, and through which I've built the recipe to produce the formulas and the flavors that are emitted from them. And so part of what I'm also promoting is the health component. Good healthy eating, it's just good all around. If you're a fitness person and you like healthy food, grewV Spice now can add flavor to that. I do have a son who is in bodybuilding, and they were boiling chicken with nothing on it. They were egg whites with nothing in them, and so the concern was, of course, calories and carbs. And the good stuff about, if you again take a look at the grewV Spice product and the nutrition charts, these are some of the most purest products you're going to find, bar none, in the culinary marketplace. And the really cool part about it is it's all in one bottle. All you have to do is shake it, and out it comes. You don't have to have a quarter teaspoon of this, a half a teaspoon of that, and you have to taste and test and back and forth. This is like a salt and pepper shaker. You pick it up, you put it on whatever you want to cook, and all of a sudden you're going, holy crow, is this ever good? Or your kids are finally coming back to you and saying, Mom, what did you do? This is amazing.
Awesome.
Well, I think it's really great. And Jen, you've got younger kids at home too, and they were making meals, or your meal for Passover
right.
yesterday too. So the idea that everybody can have a hand in that is pretty cool.
I wish we had a matzo ball soup spice, because yesterday's soup was let's just say it was the first time we ever made it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Richard, I could have used your help yesterday, but you know what? The whole point is, and going back to the whole grewV story, is that it started in your kitchen when you were cooking with your mom, and that's where the love grew for it. And and that's evident in every time we've ever spoken, and even you and I having conversations about plating. Where you let me have free reign on plating, and you just make the spice and you say you make it look however you want. I just want it to taste good. I think that that's all part of the story that makes grewV Spice and you interesting, and really it makes us all want to hang out with you even longer. So I think,
So,
yeah, no, go ahead, please.
oh, I was just going to ask, so when everything happened for you, so this idea of the crisis happening, everything's got to change. We were having conversations about, is this still going to be live? What do you think is going to happen in June? We were talking about May, so that was even sooner.
Yeah.
What was going on for you when you were trying to manage that change?
Well, you know, and to be honest, I wouldn't suggest for 1 second that I didn't have panic moments, because there was so much hooked on this promotion of this introduction of new seasoning. And it quickly changed to going from panic to this most profound opportunity. I earlier mentioned about the street party, and I'm a big proponent of and belief in street parties. I've held lots, I've produced lots, and again, it's bringing community together. What technology today, it's interesting now, our technology allows us to do this in a virtual way. Yes, we aren't shaking hands, and yes, we aren't hugging, and yes, we aren't holding each other as we dance on the dance floor. But you know what? You can dance with your significant other in the home that you live in or the place that you reside in. You can have a party with yourself. Just grab a beverage, but you can communicate and connect through community of technology. And so that's what I really quickly realized, this isn't the time to pull back and go, woe is me, and have panic attacks. This is actually time for grewV Spice and myself to invest in the future of grewV Spice through a new medium called technology. And I think if you choose to come to the party, it's going to be a party like none other. And that's because of the two people, one to my left, one to my right. You really have to realize that if you take the opportunity to engage this, the people who do are going to come out the other side stronger, better, and more recognized. For the people who are pulling back, trying to say, oh, we can't do that, we got to wait for a live event, I say, you know what, I give it a second thought, because the reality is, no matter how you engage audience, it's that you get to engage audience. And that's really what I'm excited about, is whether it's 1 or 100,000, numbers don't mean anything to me at that level. What it means is that somebody believes in the grewV story and came there to support me.
And you know what the interesting thing about your event specifically was, because it's normally a live tasting, right? Like, how else do you duplicate that without actually being there physically tasting the food? So you've got some really cool ideas coming up for your cookbook is coming out as well. You're in the middle of working on that, so there might be some contesting around that. Sample packs and all that are in the works as well. So it sounds like you've got a lot of really fun stuff going on in the background, and it's been such a fun challenge trying to think of the what's next, because it's not right. It's not like, okay, we'll just put this online and I'll talk for an hour or whatever, and because that's not your way. You can't do that with your stuff. So what are we doing? Tell everyone, what's the plan?
Well, the plan is that in conjunction with, or as a co-host, we've invited Angels Cafe to join us, and Kathy is a good friend of mine, and as a matter of fact, as a shout out to her and Angels Cafe, we are in discussion and discovery around building a new menu that's going to incorporate some grewV Spice seasonings in there. But so that's in part what's coming up. The event in and of itself is actually going to be a 12-hour street party, and a virtual street party where we're inviting some of the best in Calgary from a musician capacity. We have Kathy and her entire team, Jimmy, and all of the folks at Angels that are going to be there participating in the cooking. You'll be able to order meals literally, and they will be delivered to you. I haven't covered off all the beverage options yet, but we're hopeful that we're going to have some beverage options that if you want to order beverages, you can get them, and we'll have them delivered to you. The meals that I'm cooking live, you'll be able to engage. If you choose to purchase the seasonings, you'll be able to do those, and those will be delivered to you as well. And I think, it's just a way, again, as a community where we can showcase not just grewV Spice and not just Angels, but all of these amazing people who are building community through technology and sharing their craft with those in the audience that would love to see it. Mm-hmm. And if you can sit back and watch TV, then you can sit up and engage this party and have a great time. And there's going to be kids components in there. We haven't really vetted the whole discovery around this. There might be a coloring contest. My mind goes wild, and you can ask these two how wild it goes. But it's all about what can we do to engage community in this very difficult time and put a smile on your face. And that when it all closes off at the end of the day, you can say, wow, I had a good time. Or that was a really cool song. Or we just tasted this meal that they just made for us. Mm-hmm. And like, seriously, he wasn't lying when he said this is unbelievable. That's the grewV way.
Well, and it's really, for me, I'm really excited about this event. And actually, I was thinking more about it this morning. And as you guys all know out there in virtual land, Candy, our team has been, I was joking how we're trying to pivot without whiplash or without breaking or breaking a hip on the way. We got to do this carefully because there's a lot of, for everyone out there, there's so many layers to an event that you have to be moving at the same time. So everybody's got to be moving in tandem for the most part. And the idea, Richard, of you having so many ideas, and for us, that is just like gold because we can just be adding a bunch of stuff to this event. And the really cool thing, like we settled on, are you okay if I kind of share the framework and that tagline that we decided on for the event?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
So the idea of this being connecting community through spices, storytelling, and song. And if you think of 12 hours of some of Calgary's best musicians, best music, but also best food and some of the greatest storytelling. And I'm talking both you, Richard, and Kathy and her story. Kathy actually has a book that she's written about, if you've ever been to Angels, it's right on the Bow River. And there's, she gets people passing by all the time. Summer's one of her biggest, most busy times. But she gets to know people year over year and generations. Even in our family, we've got generations of family on my husband's side that have been going to Angels. So she just knows the generations. The storytelling of what it's like for you when you created grewV Spice, but even going back to what does it mean to cook a great meal together and to join together over food. That's something that I think we could be going for hours and hours, longer than 12 hours. But I'm so excited that we're able to bring each element into every hour. There's going to be an element of spices and an element of storytelling and an element of song that I think people will be talking about for a long time to come. So we're so excited to be working with you, Richard, on this. Jen, any thoughts around because again, you are somebody, you've traveled the world because of your love for cooking and entertaining. Anything for you as far as bringing people together, Jen, on not just at an event, but what this can do for families and for groups meeting in your home moving forward?
Well, I think that there's so many opportunities, especially with the different kinds of spices, because Richard's come up with like a sort of palette of different sort of ethnicities or, different countries, different sort of flavors. So there's a Jamaican jerk spice and there's a Mexican spice. And sorry, Richard,
curry. That's one of our favorites.
Yeah. And then there's just your salt and pepper, right? But there's so many opportunities there to create community events, because especially in Calgary, our community is so diverse that, I'm not a big fan of spicy food, but it doesn't have to be spicy to have flavor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amen.
Right. So I think that there's so much opportunity there, and every time I talk to you, Richard, I'm like, well, let's do this and let's do this, and then I know I confuse you so much because you're like, okay, so now what are we doing? Because every time it's like, what? Because there's so many cool ideas that come out of this. Let's do contests. Let's do hashtags. Let's do games with our audience and all these kind of stuff. So there's so much. There's so many fun things that we can do with this, and I'm really, really pumped about this this event that we're partnering with Angels. I think that they're doing such great work with their cause and sending food out so that it just doesn't go to waste, and it's just been such a really perfect match between the two of you. And I think you being on their menu now, and there's no other way to do this than that.
Yeah.
So I think
that's also a match. Sorry to interrupt. It's also a match of the heart, right? Like you both have this heart for the community.
Yeah.
That is, there's no question there that together, and I know a lot of people are saying, oh, together, we're in this together, but we're better together.
Yeah. But really,
I truly believe it. What's that?
But really, you actually are. It's like a perfect of the two concepts. And when we can, we talked about you have more ideas for other spices coming up, and we've thought to tie them to certain, times of the year and events and things like that. That will all come. But I'm super pumped for this one, and I'm actually glad that it's not going to be live in person, because I think that you're going to get more of a community build from this. And I think that more people are going to understand the grewV story, the Angel story, and follow both of you in the future with the new stuff. And I'm excited to see this chuck wagon personally.
And we're talking about ways to do that where we can still have the social distancing if we're still there when the event comes. We're still determining a date for it, so everybody's got to watch the grewV Spice. You can, again, I'll do a replay of this, Richard, just so you know, and we'll be adding the grewV Spice Facebook page and some links to the website and just places where they can follow you and figure out what's coming next. But there's going to be a lot of, I think from this, like Jen was saying, there's going to be a lot of layering on top of that storytelling, because if we do anything, and if anything inspires me, it's certainly being able to tell a story through a lot of different mediums, and events being one of them. And I think an event, I still believe in live events. I still believe that gathering together physically in homes and in parking lots and at stadiums, all of that is really important. And we'll be back there again someday. But I don't think that there is any kind of a disconnect when we move online. Even in this conversation, Richard, we happen to be all in 3 different locations. But the idea of community is made up of humans and people and hearts that really care. And that's what you should have shown us. And we thank you so much for bringing us into that circle, too. It's just been a lot of fun.
And also, sorry, Richard, is the spice available yet? The
Alberta Prime?
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be it's not available in the shop on the shelves, so it's a direct order. For anybody in the Calgary market, we'll have to figure out a way, but if you can communicate or provide me with an email and an address to the payment method, these will all be delivered to you free of charge. Compliments of grewV Spice. And then, if I may, just throw one more piece into the grewV story, just to kind of give everybody a kind of a happy moment thought exiting as we conclude this. grewV is a huge pay it forward company. And when I say pay it forward, we do it in a very, very significant way to as many as we can within the community that we live. We've done donated dinners to charitables such as Alberta Ballet, Calgary Pregnancy Care, STARS, Aspen Foundation, and a host of others that are maybe not as well known. So it's when you invest in the product, you're investing not only in grewV Spice, but we're as grewV Spice returning that to the community with an absolute open heart of thanks, because without you, this wouldn't exist. So that really is another part of the grewV story, and I just thank you for giving me the opportunity to even share that little tidbit.
Of course, and your website, Richard.
Yes.
If they're on right now and they want to
order, where do I order? Tell me where do I get it?
Yeah, so you can order it online. Now, when you do the profile and the payment, it's automatically attaches a shipping cost to it. And sadly, within the community that I'm not Amazon, so I don't have the privilege of the low numbers that you're familiar with. So that's why within the Canadian or within the Calgary market, once I receive that order, I'll either credit you back the shipping, or I'll give you an extra bottle of spice of your choice, something like that, so that it becomes a wash.
Awesome. That's great. Sorry, and did you give your website? Did I miss it?
Oh, so the website's grewV Spice, GREWV as in Victor, SPICE.com.
Awesome. Amazing.
I'm logging on now because my soup yesterday needed so much help.
Well, and I do need to say, Richard, you have been so incredibly gracious. For those of you that don't know, Candy, we've been for the last now, what, 6 years, 5 years? We've actually almost, 5 years.
We'll be 6 and
six coming up, but we have been publishing Moments Magazine. It's Moments Magazine. For event planners, it's event ideas and inspiration. And Richard, you have been at the last couple of launches and have helped us so graciously to get the food ready, have some great spice dips for us. All of that has been such a gift to us. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. We're actually looking at launching our 9th issue of Moments coming up in June. And then we've got our 10th big issue. Whether that'll be virtual or if that's going to be face-to-face, we're not sure, but that's going to be in November. And hopefully, Richard, you will be with us for both of those, whether that be virtually or face-to-face.
No pressure, but we'll see you there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. I guess we're getting close to the end here. So appreciate having you on, Richard. Anybody that wants to have that conversation with you, I'm sure you're happy to do some storytelling before we actually do our spice storytelling and song event. But just watch for on our Candy site and then also on the grewV Facebook site. You guys can see the updates, and as we get the date settled for that, we'll make sure we'll let you guys know. Anything else you guys want to say before we're signing off for the long weekend?
No, just happy Easter to everyone, and hope you all just stop working and slow down and really just enjoy the time with your families, and maybe do some cooking around the table with your family.
I love that ending. We're gonna leave it there.
Beautiful.
Ditto. All right. Well, thanks, Richard, and
Thank you
for watching. We'll see you next week.
See you soon.
Thank you. Bye for now.